I was 17 years old. I could not read. I had never held a sword. I was the daughter of a peasant from a village no one had ever heard of. And yet, I led an army. And yet, I changed the fate of an entire nation. I was burned alive in the marketplace of Rouen. But before the flames took me, I had already won. My name is Joan, and this is my story.
I was born in Domrémy, a small village in eastern France, where the line between earth and sky felt impossibly thin. It was 1412. France had been bleeding for over 70 years in a war against England, the war that would later be called the 100 Years' War. I was 13, an ordinary afternoon in my father's garden. And then, light, brighter than the sun. The voice of Saint Michael was clear as a church bell. Joan, go and save France. Me? A shepherd's daughter? I only knew how to spin wool and pray. But when heaven gives an order, fear becomes fuel. No one believed me. They laughed. But I cut my hair, put on men's clothing, and rode 400 miles through enemy territory. At Chinon, the Dauphin Charles decided to test me. He hid himself among his courtiers and put another man forward in his place. But can you hide a king's soul from someone sent by God? I walked straight to him. Give me an army, and I will lift the siege of Orléans. He had no choice. France was dying. I had become its last hope.
Orléans. The city had been under siege for 7 months. 7 months of hunger, death, and despair. Everyone said, if Orléans falls, France falls with it. The seasoned captains told me to wait. I did not wait. We attacked the first English bastide, St. Loup. My army wavered. I grabbed the standard and marched forward. They followed me. I took an arrow to the shoulder, an English crossbow bolt, between the neck and the collarbone. They dragged me behind the line. I pulled the arrow out myself, bound the wound, and returned. The English cheered, believing they had killed the witch. When they saw me standing on the field again, they broke. By evening, the English had fled. 7 months of siege, over in 4 days. We entered the city. People poured into the streets. They reached out to touch my horse, my armor. They wept. So did I. But they were not supposed to see that. After Orléans, we had momentum, and I knew we could not afford to lose it. June 18th, 1429. The Loire Valley, a field near the village of Patay. The English army was considered unbeatable in an open field. Their longbows had mown down the French for decades. At Agincourt, at Crécy, it was always the same story. But this time, everything went differently. Our cavalry found the English vanguard before they even had time to form up. The archers never reached their positions. They never drove their stakes into the ground. We struck, fast, without warning.
The English army crumbled in minutes. 2,000 dead on their side, around 100 on ours. Among the captured was Sir John Talbot, one of England's most feared commanders. The road to Reims was open. On July 17th, 1429, Charles VII was crowned in Reims Cathedral. I stood beside him, holding my standard in my hands. It was the happiest moment of my life. I had fulfilled what the voices had commanded me. But Charles was already looking at me differently. I had been useful to him, as a symbol, as a tool. But now, the tool was becoming an obstacle. In May of 1430, during the battle at Compiègne, my own allies raised the drawbridge behind me. They locked me out. Burgundian soldiers seized me. The Burgundians sold me to the English for 10,000 livres. Charles paid no ransom. Charles made no attempt to free me. Charles remained silent.
The trial began. 42 charges. The main ones: heresy and wearing men's clothing. The judges asked the same questions over and over, trying to catch me in my own words. I answered, "If I am not in God's grace, may He place me there. If I am, may He keep me there." They found no heresy, but they needed my death to strip the crown from Charles's head. May 30th, 1431, the old market square in Rouen. I am 19 years old. I asked for a cross. An English soldier tied 2 sticks together and handed it to me. I pressed it to my chest. When the flames licked my feet, I did not curse them. I called out to Jesus. I spoke only one word: Jesus. The English burned what remained of me 3 times, and then threw my ashes into the Seine. They feared relics. They feared I would become a legend. They were right. They burned me. But fire does not destroy those who have already become the flame.